Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens for your Leeds United news show. And we've got Daniel Farke's press conference today. Yep, we've got Daniel Farke's press conference. And there has been a few updates from Daniel Farke regarding injury news. And that is the main thing I want to get into in today's show. I want to talk about the injury updates. There's an injury update on Okafor. Unfortunately, some negative news there. And there's also some returning players from injury as well. So that is going to be today's video. Also, obviously, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff does massively help the channel. As you can see, we have hit a lovely 1,900 subscribers, so I'm only 100 away from hitting 2K. So if you could help me and drop a subscribe and a like on the video, that would be absolutely fantastic. But let's start with Noah Okafor then, the man, the myth, the Swiss legend. What do I think about the sort of Noah Okafor situation? Well, I've seen a lot of sort of stuff online about the fact that maybe this is a bit of a nightmare for Leeds United. Obviously, Okafor, we know, was in quite good form. 2 goals in his last 2 games outside of the FA Cup, of course, which again matched, I thought it was okay in as well. And he had starts for the first time, really, started to get some real momentum at Leeds United over the last few weeks. So yes, it is disappointing for him to be injured. However, I think overpinning this and overlying all of this, in my personal opinion, yes, it's disappointing that Okafor will miss the next 2 games, which is the reported injury from Daniel Farke. But truthfully, if we look at sort of how Daniel Farke has lined up in games like this in the past, when you quote sort of Everton away, when you quote Newcastle away, when you quote Arsenal at home, etc., Okafor wouldn't have been starting these games anyway. He wouldn't have been starting. It's going to be the team tomorrow. We can talk about the defence, and I think that could number up in different ways. But it'll be Aronson playing behind DCL at the weekend, and then you'll have Stach, Ampadu, and of course Gruev as the midfield 3. I'm pretty certain that will be the lineup. So truthfully, with all that underpinning of all the games that actually Okafor was going to feature in / not featuring, this isn't the worst game for him to be out for, in truth, because these next 2 are not the worst games to be out for, because truthfully, I don't think he was going to be in the starting 11 anywhere. Now, of course, he has been doing decently off the bench recently. You look at the performance away at Chelsea, came on, got a goal, etc., brought us back into that game, ended up obviously getting the equaliser in the end as well. And that will be a miss for Leeds United. But we have got players that can emulate the profile when you look at the likes of sort of Dan James, Wilfred Gnonto, maybe Buonanotte gets a look in. There is a few players in the lineup now, and there is a bit of depth with Leeds United. And truthfully, when we talk about injuries, and we've talked about injuries, and we will continue to talk about injuries for the rest of the season, of course we will. But actually, we're in a good space with injuries at the moment. If you've only got Noah Okafor out injured, I don't think we can be moaning at all about injuries. And I don't think after the game, if we don't get a result against Villa, yes, we might lose to Villa, as of course we're all aware, because they're a fantastic team. And obviously, we'll have the match preview tomorrow regarding that. But I don't think it'll be based on injuries, because truthfully, as I said, it's only Noah Okafor that we're missing. So yes, we'll miss his dynamism, we'll miss his pace, etc. There is a shout now, I think, for people to go for us to go 2 up top, with obviously Lucas Demetra playing up there, which obviously we liked when we saw against Chelsea. I don't see that happening. As I said, for me, it'll be quite obvious. It'll be DCL up front, and then it'll be Aronson in sort of that pocket behind, with the sort of 3 midfielders in behind. Anyway, that brings us on to the midfielders, actually. And there is a new returnee, as I said, in the midfield. And that is, of course, Anton Stach. And I was actually thinking about Stach as when I was making this video and sort of going into this video about the sort of situation with Anton Stach at this moment in time. And I think he's massively vital to the team. I think when you actually look at the performances we've had when he's been out the team, I don't think we've played that well when Anton Stach's not been playing in this Leeds United team. When you look back, I think he's paramount to everything that we do. I think he's absolutely fantastic on set pieces. I think the way he can intercept the ball and drive through the midfield, almost Yaya Toure-esque. I'm not saying he is as good as Yaya Toure, but in terms of profile, that's the sort of player he looks like he is to me. And that sort of driving through the midfield that we've seen from Stach is a huge, huge positive for Leeds United. And then, as I said, when you on top of that, you've got the sort of the range of passing that he offers. I think he's quite technically sound in there as well. I think he's good defensively. I think he's been... Look, when Stach first came in, I was a bit concerned about him. But I do think we've seen a very much an increased level performance. And as I said, I don't think we were great against Chelsea away, in truth. I don't think we had a good game at all. I don't think we played particularly well. However, there's no doubt about it that Anton Stach not being in the team didn't help us. It didn't help us in the midfield. It didn't help us progress the ball forward. All these problems we had against Chelsea, I do think Stach would have helped with that. And as I said right at the start as well, goes without saying that his corners are a massive plus for us. So for me, it's not even really a debate about Anton Stach about does he come back into the team. Of course he comes back in the team. And as I said, when we look at the preview tomorrow, and we'll talk all about that, obviously, tomorrow at 8 p.m, the favourite show of the week, as always, then we'll sort of we'll look at sort of the impact of Anton Stach. Stephen says it's still a shame Okafor started to gain momentum, looking fairly good. Glad your subscribers are rising. Great content. Keep up. Good topics. All Leeds our way. Thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate the comment, mate. I appreciate the comment. Naturally, I think with Leeds United at this moment in time, I think all content creators will see this. It's not a time for flying. We had about a month ago, of course, it was the transfer window. Everything was massive. But I appreciate you guys more who watch the videos at this moment in time, because naturally it is a smaller community, and it is a smaller sort of time period for Leeds United at this moment in time. But as I said, thank you, Stephen, in the comments. And yeah, I appreciate the support as always. And you're right about Okafor. Truthfully, as I said, you want to keep that momentum going, don't you? Naturally, although all I mean by that is that I just don't think he'd have been in the sort of starting 11. Anyway, let's move on to the news regarding Pascal Struijk. Now, the thing with Pascal Struijk is, I think, I've always felt with Pascal Struijk, I actually think he's probably one of the most underrated players in this Leeds United team. I think he's got a lot to offer. And I think some of the stuff he does goes very unnoticed in this Leeds United team. And again, he's been missing over the last few weeks, as we're aware of. And I do think performances have slipped while he's been missing. I think his ability to play the ball out from the back on that left-hand side is a massive positive. We don't have another left-footed centre-back at the football club. And I think since, obviously, he's not been in the team, the ability, as I said, to play out from the back and utilise that left-hand side and that left foot has been a real problem for Leeds United, actually. So it's really good that Pascal Struijk's back in there. I also think Pascal Struijk offers a lot in defensively in terms of set piece as well. I think sometimes with Pascal Struijk, when you're going forward, I do kind of feel at times that he needs to work on his heading when crosses come into the box. I think he just heads it as opposed to directing the header, if that makes sense. It almost just bounces off him, but he's quite good at winning them. But something that you can never underrate with Pascal Struijk is his defensive aerially. I think in terms of defensive player, in terms of clearing set piece, I think he's really, really solid. I do. And I do think him being back is a huge positive. I do think it's a bit of a shame for James Justin now, because truthfully, I think when you go in Villa away, for me, the centre-back pairing should probably be rode on Biol and, of course, Pascal Struijk. And that is a bit of a shame for James Justin, because I think he has had a really good season for Leeds United. There was a talk from Bogle today about the fact that he's improved him as a person. And I do think the fact that he obviously got given the armband at the weekend shows the level of sort of James Justin at this moment in time, and the sort of the what he's brought in terms of the team harmony to this Leeds United team. I do think he's been a massive net positive. So having him out of the team is going to be a bit disappointing. But obviously we are going to continue this far at the back situation. I don't really love James Justin as a wing-back. I think his best work is probably from a more defensive capacity. He can go forward, and I don't think he's awful going forward, but I do prefer Jayden Bogle on that right-hand side. I think it's a bit of a specialist position for Jayden Bogle, and I think he's been fantastic since he's played there. So as I said, for me, I think some people will go, is it Rodon? Is it Justin? I think for Villa away, you probably want that centre-back in there rather than right-back. But certainly James Justin has been a welcome addition. But as I said, Pascal Struijk back, I think, offers a lot to this Leeds United team. And even when you look at some of the performances away from home, when we talk about sort of like the Liverpool away game, for example, it was Pascal Struijk was at the heart of that defence. And as I said, I do think he's a truly really important player for us. I really do believe that. Gavin says 1 down, but 3 back, so overall positive. Yeah, no, 100%, mate, 100%. And I think we knew, didn't we, with knew with Okafor that he was going to be injured. It's a shame with Okafor, isn't it? Because I do feel a bit like at the weekend we were watching him, and I would have subbed Okafor for Pearl. We said this in the match reaction, and then obviously played him a bit longer, and he didn't get any injured. Now, look, fundamentally, Daniel Farke didn't know he was going to get injured. Of course he didn't. And I think it was unfortunate timing. It's just a shame that he maybe didn't sub him a bit sooner. But as I said, for me, that isn't a criticism, Daniel Farke. It's just a bit of a disappointment, because I do think he was probably in line to be subbed sooner or later, and it just happened a bit late. John Emmerich says, hardly a huge blow. I think it is a blow, mate. He's gone back-to-back games. As I said, I don't think he's going to be, I don't think he's life-changing for the Leeds United team. But remember back to the Burnley game earlier in the season, he was obviously missing in that game. When we kicked off and we had Brendan Harrington one side and Jack Harrison on the other side, I don't know if you all remember it, the comments were like, oh my God, how much we miss Noah Okafor. So I think we can sort of jump between the two things. We always say with Okafor, he's a player that sometimes can be fantastic, sometimes can be awful. He's a risk taker, and I think when you've got a risk taker in your team like Noah Okafor, you get that imbalance in terms of game performances. Sometimes it's a fantastic game, sometimes it's a poor game. But I do think when he's on it, I do think he's a real threat for this team, and I do think he's the best dribbler at the football club, and I think he's quite direct with his dribbling as well, and he does make stuff happen. So if Leeds United are losing at any point in the next 2 weeks, it's a shame that we don't have a Noah Okafor to bring off the bench. I think that is a huge downer. But I do think, actually, looking forward, of all the games of the next 3 that you'd rather have Noah Okafor in, it would be the Sunderland game, because I do think he will be expected to start that game. Although maybe you're now thinking that he won't start, obviously based on the fact he has been injured. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. There was also talk from Daniel Farke about a few other things as well. I think he touched upon the Buonanotte situation, of course. And I think with the Buonanotte situation, he's there in protection mode for Buonanotte. And I think everybody knows the situation with Buonanotte. Everybody knows it's a bit of a nightmare situation. But truthfully, I think it's important we note with Buonanotte, it's not a permanent signing. So truthfully, even if he doesn't play and we do get our objective of staying in the Premier League this season, truthfully, it didn't really matter. But I do think it's important. I think Daniel Farke is good at this, and I think he's got better at this, actually. I do think what he says in the press about players is good. I like the fact that he doesn't have the same strategy for all his players. Some players he obviously knows will go under if you sort of publicly criticise them, and then some players he's more willing to sort of openly criticise, as you saw with sort of Lucas Perry. And I think that's good man management. I hate the idea that you should treat sometimes in business, everyone says, oh, you've got to treat everybody the same. Absolutely not. No, you can't treat everybody the same. Some people need hard telling off, and that's the way they'll respond. Some people need a softener blow, and they're already annoyed with themselves, and actually need the complete opposite. And I like Daniel Farke mixing it up in press conferences, depending on obviously on characteristics and personality types. I think that's really important going forward. But yeah, that is the show today. Of course, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, massively helps the channel. And also, tomorrow it is the Leeds United Aston Villa, should I say, versus Leeds United preview. So definitely join for that. We always have a good time on Friday night. It's always a bit more of a chill show. It's my favourite show of the week as well. I think it's because it's the end of the working week as well. But I shall see you all there, everybody. And other than that, thanks for watching, and